like Trump's trying to keep him around, to keep Comey around as long as he can to try to see if he can get some kind of loyalty out of him. And when he realizes that's not going to happen, he cuts him loose. I have one question for Michael on all your reporting over the last couple of weeks, which is kind of got Comey's story out into the atmosphere. How do you square it with that testimony he gave like 15 days ago in May 3rd in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee, where he was asked about whether or not he'd ever had political pressure put on him to halt an investigation? And he said, quote, "It's not happened in my experience." Given all he's saying, it sounds very specifically like it's happened in his experience. So how do you square with what he said in front of the Judiciary Committee on May 3rd?
So I actually, when we were writing our story yesterday, the White House said to us, they said, well, you got to look at the Comey testimony. So I said, send me the testimony. And I looked at the quote and I said, well, that's pretty interesting and that's pretty specific. And then I went back and read the larger context of the quote. And the larger context of the quote was in terms of the Justice Department telling the FBI to end investigations. So indeed, Comey could have said there, look, this is something we've experienced with the White House here, but in the context of the quote, they were talking about the Justice Department, the Attorney General, and the interactions between the FBI and DOJ, which can be these odd and difficult and intense things.
So the distinction is that it wasn't the president himself asking.
Correct. But Comey could have offered it at that point.
Right.
But if the FBI director had come out 2 weeks ago, as he was still in office, and said, yes, the president has tried to influence the Flynn investigation, that would have been
a bombshell.
So Bob, I just wanted to ask you, I'm carrying around The Final Days with me, your book about
Nixon's last year in office.
Nixon's last year in office. And what's so striking and what you forget is all of the president's men didn't get thrown in jail because of connections with the break-in. It was a variety of things. So they got the vice president on tax evasion. They got other people on money laundering. That's why when I hear that this is a criminal investigation, not lined up neatly with Russia, you can see there are a lot of people around Trump that have lived very complicated lives over the past
exactly right.
5 to 35 years. And a lot of people could be in jeopardy for reasons that aren't lined up straight. And one other thing, too, I want you to explain before then, there is such a misperception about impeachment. We're nowhere near it. But crimes and misdemeanors are not crimes and misdemeanors. You go back to the Federalist Papers, and as I saw some people describing last night, it's a breach of public trust as defined by the members of Congress. It's not as tight and neat. We're well beyond just looking at collusion.
Nothing is tight and neat in all of this. There's no question about it. But, I mean, the superb reporting about Comey, there is a remedy, and that is Comey goes to the White House counsel and says, we all understand Donald Trump. He doesn't understand obstruction of justice. He doesn't think legally. You've got to call him off. You need to have a talk with him and say, stop coming to me.
But Bob, how many stories are there where Bob McGahn doesn't do his job? It doesn't get past Don McGahn.
Well, you need to make an effort to protect yourself. And Comey needs to protect himself in all of this and say, did I always act in a way to not just protect the FBI and myself, but the president? And presidents often are about to go off the rails. Let me, without elaborating, I've had presidents tell me things that are top secret, and then after the interview, the aides run in and say, oh my God, don't use that. If you do, this and this and this will happen.
Right.
Look at it reasonably and do that. Presidents do things like this. Part of the process, and what Trump is not doing, and this is the fatal problem, potentially fatal problem, and he has not said to his staff and people around him, let's organize what we're going to do. It is chaos, and the chaos is causing all of us to kind of have gas pains, but the world is having gas pains about this.
That is one way to put it, and the world seems to be skating toward the puck of the dramatic, as a statement I made up earlier this morning. Still ahead on Morning Joe, President Trump is asked to reflect on the first 6 months, and his answer is worth all 4 minutes that we're going to be playing to you straight ahead. Plus, back in March, Michael Flynn's attorney said the former national security advisor had a story to tell. Now it appears he's telling it. We're going to bring you the new details emerging this morning. But first, here's Bill Cairns. He's got to check on what could be another severe day of weather. Bill, tell us about it.
Well, Joe, we got lucky yesterday. We were in the high risk of severe weather. We had almost 20 tornadoes. We didn't have any fatalities. We didn't have any injuries. They were all misses, and that was great. They all looked like this. They were all out in the open fields in areas of rural Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas. So that was good. Now, we did have some really impressive hail. We also had some wind damage, a lot of reports of that, and some really cool lightning shots. Let me show you this. This is what they call upward lightning. It literally starts at the ground and then comes up. Really impressive. And then also, there it is, some of the sheet lightning there coming up from the ground. And then Colorado. Take a look what happened in Colorado Springs. A little slow motion, big, huge snowflake footage for you. This was 18 inches of snow in the foothills of Colorado in the middle of May. So let's get into today. St. Louis is by far the worst weather this morning. Severe thunderstorm warning right over the top of you now. So stay indoors for another 15 minutes or so. Today, 24.
Not made aware of any.
He would be appealing to Democrats, having been the Democratic vice presidential nominee in 2000. However, Democratic sources I'm talking to say they shouldn't assume that because many Democrats want someone with a law enforcement background for the FBI, not a politician. So yet again, no easy choice for President Trump in trying to fill a high-profile vacancy, one of his own creating by firing James Comey. But for today, it's looking ahead to a foreign trip and trying to change the subject. Lewis?
Our thanks to Kelly O'Donnell for that report.
Also today, a statue of Confederate General Robert Lee is set to be taken down in New Orleans. It's the final of 3 Confederate monuments taken down in that city in recent weeks.
That does it for us on this Friday. I'm Yasmin Vasugan, alongside Eamon Mohadeen and Louis Bergdorf. Morning Joe starts right now.
Great weekend, everyone.
Did you at any time urge former FBI Director James Comey in any way, shape, or form to close or to back down the investigation into Michael Flynn? And also, as you look back...
No. Next question.
That was quite a press conference, by the way. We're going to get like a 4-minute chunk of him because it's just great. I'm going to straighten my tie first. Then we're going to get a 4-minute chunk of him contradicting himself. And I got the check mark on the tie. But this White House, they can't keep up. Is Willie up in New York?
Yes.
Willie, how are you doing this morning?
Well, it's like Home Alone 2, the one where he's left in New York alone.
Yeah.
It's just
that's the one where he meets Trump.
Look at
so
this.
Maybe you can...
Look at this. It's very sad. Jen's here, Joe's here, a few of the guys are here, but just me and Donald Trump in the lobby of the Plaza, Home Alone 2.
Well, I was going to say, go to the Plaza. Maybe you'll see the Donald there. That would be very cool for you. Maybe Michael Jackson will wander around. All of your friends. Anyway, the White House is so bad